Hello, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. My name is Jasmin Dudic, and today I will be hosting this live session. I will be talking a lot about uh, who I am, my experiences with AI-assisted coding, some traps that I fell into, things I have learned, basically tips and tricks that you can use to avoid the stuff that I ran into, lost time, and at one point even money trying to fix stuff that could have been fixed in a better way. So before I start, I would like to introduce myself. As I said, my name is Jasmin Dudic, and I am a senior developer at Bloomtech. I am also an AI engineer. I have been working with AI for the past a bit above 2 years. I have been holding many lectures on different colleges, and I have been holding internships. I like to invest my time in trying to learn AI as much as possible, as I do believe it is the future of programming, I guess, and basically everything else. I would like to now go to the slideshow and start showing you and talking about my experience. So you might not believe this, but 2.5 years ago, I was actually a hater of vibe coding, of using ChatGPT at all, not even to program. I refused to make an account. I refused to send a message. People showed me some cool and funny chats, and I said, no, I don't want to. But then I ran into some problems, time constraints, private projects, and I tried it a bit, and I never went back. So I will be talking about, in the first session, about 7 steps of me being a skeptic, not believing that AI can help us at all. Then me starting to use it a little bit, trying to help myself, just to save time for some front-end and UI stuff. The third part is me adapting to using the AI, trying to improve on it, learning how to use it more optimally, and then me hitting a wall, trying to do something that was not possible with my approach. Fifth step was me turning to a completely different service, and where I invested a lot of money and didn't get good results. Sixth step is me finally switching to Claude Code. And the seventh step is where I currently am right now and how I use Claude Code. The first session will be focused on me talking about these things, and the second session will be me actually creating some really small application using Claude Code, showing you how to talk to it, how to generate feedback, how to have it actually do it mostly correctly on the first run without you having to rerun your Claude to fix bugs or investigate for bugs and stuff like that. So, as I already mentioned, I used to be a skeptic. I used to think that people using ChatGPT were not good programmers. I thought, just write the code yourself. That's the whole point. The whole point is for you to figure out a way to solve a problem. And whenever I would run into a problem, I would just go Stack Overflow, I would read a blog, check the documentation, spend a whole day debugging an issue. I would fix the issue, but I would learn a lot of stuff while doing it. But then I started getting asked by friends, people that wanted to get into programming, and they asked, what's the point if AI is going to replace us? My answer was, it won't. I didn't believe AI was going to replace us, and I said, for every code you write with AI, somebody has to fix the bugs. You have to test the application, you have to fix the bugs. What if I just write the code myself? There won't be that many bugs. If there are, I'll be able to fix them on my own because it's my code, and I would have better knowledge of the application. And I held this conversation a lot with people, and I still do. I do have a different perspective now, but I still do think that the AI will not replace us, but I will give my final verdict at the end of this presentation. So I didn't like AI. I did not want to use AI. I was heavily against AI, any type of AI, not even asking it a simple question, where can I find the documentation for this? And error code, I would rather debug it to know what the code means and how to fix it instead of just pasting it and saying, find me this issue. But then I ran into a small problem. I got asked by my company, can I hold a small demo in a couple of days? And I said, oh, and the demo was some basic front-end application. It wasn't complicated, but I'm bad with UI. So I decided, okay, I will write the backend on my own, but I will just ask GPT to generate me the front end. I will get some skeleton, I will take the front end, and then I'll connect it manually to my backend. I will still know how everything was done. So I did this, but I did this in the worst case possible. I messaged ChatGPT and I told it, listen, do not question. I just need these 3 views. I need them to be laid out like this. Send me files for Angular. It did. I got 6 files back. I ignored the test files because I didn't want to have tests. I put them manually in my Angular project. It did not work. And then I started debugging why it doesn't work. I forgot that I have a flag in my local environment that makes every new project non-standalone, while GPT like to generate standalone projects. And by putting the code in my non-standalone application, it didn't run. So I had to spend an hour just fixing this issue. I didn't want to fix it with AI because I thought AI made me this issue. So I Googled it, I found some files, I regenerated some files, rebuilt my application again as standalone because I just gave up. Copied the files, ran the application, it was working, and I was just annoyed because in my mind, AI messed up. I asked AI to do something, it did it incorrectly. I had to fix it manually, waste my time. I stressed out a lot. It did nothing for me. So I thought AI is still bad. But then I started investigating why exactly did the AI give me a wrong example. I thought maybe it's my fault because when I run into a wall, I almost always think that it's not my fault. But then after a day or two, I think, hey, it's probably my fault. So I investigated how it works, and then I figured out. I found out that I didn't really tell it absolutely anything. I didn't tell it which Angular version I'm using. I didn't tell it if it's standalone or not standalone. I didn't tell it the idea of the application. And then I opened up a new chat and thought, okay, let me take it step by step. Let me just write out everything I need, have it read it, have it make a plan, feed back the information to me, and only then generate me these files. And it did. It made it a lot better, even came up with some ideas that I didn't even think of that I just implemented as well. I already had them on the backend side since I fed it my list of endpoints on the backend, so it was able to figure out that as well. And I started, using this a bit more. The biggest problem was when I would run into an issue. I would maybe open up a file, I would find something that I don't like, maybe some formatting, maybe some CSS, maybe the name of a function that I didn't like. I would fix it, and then I would forget about it. A few days later, I would tell some AI, I'm gonna keep saying ChatGPT. I would tell ChatGPT, can you make me a new view, a new feature? I would put it in and an error. And I would be confused how. Like I didn't really do anything, but what it did, it called a function that I touched, that I changed. So my idea was, okay, I will just feed back all of my files to ChatGPT, have it make a new plan, then send me new files, and you know where this is going. My Firefox would crash whenever I would open up ChatGPT. My context history was so large that it would take up to 10 minutes before it starts processing my message. And I would close the chat, make a new chat, paste the files, create 3 features, close the chat, make a new chat. Then I tried it projects. I would upload files to the project and then have ChatGPT edit those files. And that proved to work a lot better, but I was still messing up at the core idea of what I was doing. So I started investigating a bit more, and I found out that my workflow was broken. Like AI, ChatGPT did its job. It was just that I was feeding it the data incorrectly. Instead of me having to update its file knowledge every time, I shouldn't touch the files at first place. So I started doing something new. I started to tell ChatGPT to generate me projects at large. I would talk to it, make a plan mode, have it generate a zip. Instead of me telling it, hey, can you give me these 3 views in Angular? And then I would run commands to create them so it auto connects in the code. I would copy paste them, test them. I would just run the whole idea through ChatGPT and then tell it, okay, make a plan or a multi-step plan. I'll talk about that a bit later. And have it just generate the files, the whole project for me. I would split it in the backend and front end as well to not have it do such a big, to make it lose such a big context, but it would generate the backend. I would pull it. It was usually Python. I would create the virtual environment, install the requirements, run the application, put in the environment variables, everything. It would generate a really good README file. I would do the front end, test everything. It works. It doesn't work perfectly, but it works a lot better. I have a starting point, and the starting point is 60% of the application. And before, I would spend maybe like a week on this every day. Give me these 2 views. Then I would go to the backend. Okay, for these views you just created, can you generate me the models? Then I would copy paste them manually because I kept track of where everything is. The structure of my backend and front end was becoming really bad because I would get annoyed and just drag drop it into any folder. I would have controllers in my services. I would have models in my services. And then later on, I would like look at the code and be like, why is this here? Did I make an issue? Did GPT tell me wrong? It was me, of course. It's never GPT. So by just generating the whole project, I would get a lot better results. And also, the AI would keep the code in its context. And I would never touch it. Even if I found like a small issue somewhere, I would keep debugging, keep looking for issues. And then I would give it a report. On this view, the button doesn't work. On this view, the dropdown doesn't have any applied CSS. On this view, whenever I click a button, I get a permission denied, and just give it the whole report and tell it fix it. But this time, the AI has its context, has the files unchanged, and it just knows everything that can be done, everything that should be done. It doesn't ask me if I change any files. It doesn't call functions that don't not exist anymore because they have everything. And they would come back to me after a while and ask me, do you want it zipped or do you want it file by file? And of course, reverting back to my roots, I said a file by file, so I can be the one copy pasting it, so I feel like a programmer again. I'm not just sitting there pressing buttons. But later on, I just gave up on that and said, just give me the whole zip again. I'll just copy paste everything, search and replace, and I'm done. And this was the best decision I ever made. Just giving up on the idea of AI is bad, AI gives me bugs, AI is, can't be used, I have to babysit it, I have to test everything. I just went full into AI. I tried to make it work, and I kind of made it work. Now, this was all fun while I was creating demo apps, while I was creating some MVPs. I have a backend, I want to make some UI pretty, I want to update some performances on my existing applications, debug an error, that was fine. But then I had a friend of mine come up to me and said, look, I have an idea for a bit complex application. I got a question. Is it better to build the project this way, or should we use Claude Code? We should definitely use Claude Code. I will get to that. That is in session 2. This is me telling you guys, everyone, what I messed up. And I messed up by not using a dedicated coding tool. As I was saying, a friend of mine asked me to make an application with him. He had an idea. The application was a really big application, above 20 features, security, mobile-friendly, accounts, SSO, payments, everything. So like 6 months of work. And he said, can you do this? And I told him, give me a few days to figure it out. I got home, I started looking at my chats with ChatGPT, and I thought, if I keep doing this, after like 2 messages, it's going to crash. There's no way it can keep 20 features worth of context. I can have a feature per chat, but then if I'm touching sharing files, I have to update them manually. So I decided to investigate if there's something better, if there's something bigger than just sending my code to ChatGPT. And there was. I worked with V0 once before. We had a in-house hackathon in our company where it was just for vibe coding, so no manual coding at all. And my team used V0, so I had some experience. I managed to do a lot with just the free tier. I think it gives you like 10 credits or something. I built like a portfolio app, but I know that V0 exists. I know that websites that code for you exist. So I investigated a bit more about what other websites there are, and I remember that my company used to talk about Lovable, so I opened up Lovable. It gave me some free coins or tokens. I wrote some random prompt, make me some game like RPG that works, and it did. It worked. I was surprised. I was actually surprised that it made it quickly. It made it work. I didn't have to touch any files. I didn't have to copy paste. I didn't have to manually debug anything. So I thought, this is good. I'm going to try Lovable. So I used Lovable. I paid like $25 or something, not a lot, just to like start. And for those credits, it built me a really good UI. It did the whole application UI. So 20 features worth of UI, admin tool, mobile responsive, everything is connected. It even mocked the data, the drop downs, the buttons, the searches, everything was working, but there was no backend. So I decided to look into how to connect the backend. Lovable has a built-in connector to Supabase. You press a few buttons, it connects, it asks you for permission, of course, you allow it, and it starts generating all of the models for you. So I did that, and the application sucked. It did everything, but it would fix one issue and make a second one. It would implement a feature and break something that's completely unrelated to it for no reason. I remember having 3 back buttons on the one view, and I tell Lovable, okay, on this URL, there are 3 back buttons. I want one of them. So what it did, it made a 4th one. I have no idea why. It even told me, oh, I found the 3 back buttons. I'm going to replace them with a new one, and just added a 4th one. And I was looking at the application, you have 4 back buttons. I mean, I guess you can't miss them anymore because you have 4 of them, but still it doesn't make sense. And I started to notice that the more I worked with Lovable, it was harder to fix bugs. Earlier bugs would be fixed immediately, but bugs after 3 or 4 months of me working with Lovable were just impossible to fix. I would sometimes even just open up the code to fix them manually. It was one line of code fix. It would take 5 minutes. You'd spend like $2 worth of tokens. So after throwing a lot of money at Lovable, we finally finished the application. It was held by sticks and stones. If you click the wrong button, it might crash. You never know. It worked. We were able to demo it to people. It was fast. It was optimized. We had all of the features that we wanted. Sadly, we didn't manage to sell the application, but doesn't matter. It was a learning experience. I managed to learn what Lovable does. I managed to learn how it works, and I managed to learn to never use it again. I'm not saying it's bad. I know that they fixed it a lot, like a lot, but I still prefer just doing it with Claude Code. So as I already talked about this, I forgot to switch, but it's fine. So it just made these views pretty quick without any issues, but later on it forgot what to do because the context window was shrinking down. As the application was growing larger, the context window was shrinking down. Lovable would have to read a lot more files again to tell itself what to do. And especially when you have 20 features and you're trying to fix a bug that touches 7 of them, it has to read a lot of files and then it forgets what it read. It even tells me I'm going to fix it on these views, but then forgets to do it on few of them because it just ran out of space. This was in November last year, 2025. Now, as I mentioned already, Lovable is way better. So if you are willing, you can give it a try as well. You get some free tokens for the first time you register. It's pretty cool. But I forgot to mention this. When I connected it to my database and I told it to use real data instead of the placeholders it already had set, it started hallucinating. It would merge real data and hard-coded data. So I believe my prompt was correct. Currently, we have hard-coded values for products, doesn't matter what the application was. And we have an admin view where the user is able to add new products. I need you to replace the hard-coded values with the values that are entered on the admin tool. The prompt is still, in my opinion, a fine prompt. It explains the issue, what it should do, and why. And Lovable went ahead, did it, and I would open up the list and just have duplicated products. It shows the hard-coded ones, but it also migrated them to the database. Two things I've never told it to do. And then I asked it, okay, there's duplicates. Why? And it says, oh, it's because I've migrated your hard-coded values into the database because I believe that you need them there so you can show the data, but I also kept the hard-coded ones as a fallback. I never told it to do so. And this was the thing that was annoying me a bit. Just Lovable doing things for me. I was just annoyed because I didn't tell it to do it. I know that I don't want it, but it would just keep doing it. And then I started researching how the chat works, and I learned a thing or two about contexts and global rules. So I set a couple of rules. One of them being never do something that I don't tell you to do. Sounds really stupid. It works. Or if you are unsure about something, you must ask me a question. There were features where I would tell it implement this, but I would just forget to mention something and it would go ahead and make it. I would open up the feature, half of it is missing. And I used to think it messed up, but no, I didn't tell it. But it does have context in the application that the field should be there. It has the database model. It has the previous chats where I talked about it, but it just did what I told it. So after telling it stuff like never invent new features, new fields, only do what I tell you. If you are unsure, ask me a question. If you have ideas, tell me the ideas, and then I'll choose which one I want. I got good results. This is at the end of the project where I actually managed to fix the issues I had and get the application up and running. Yes, so another issue I ran, you'll notice I'll be talking about a bunch of issues I have because I don't want you to run into these issues. Another issue I have is the application was created to live track a few things. I'm not going to talk about what things, but there was a few things that it should track track. For one view, it created WebSockets. I'm fine with that. It managed to make WebSockets work with Supabase. They have some own like live tracking. It's fine. Screen B did the live database listeners as well, and I was fine with it. And then Screen C started to pull the database every 5 seconds. And I would go to one view, it's working. Second view has the same exact layout. It's working. And the third view is not working. So I started to think, why? Like, how is it possible? I have a copy paste at 3 views, and one of them is not working. What is your opinion about open code or open source agentic tools and models? I mean, I prefer to run Claude Code. I have people at the company running different AI tools. I didn't really get into using different ones. I do plan to make my own list soon. But as long as you're fine and know how to use a open source agentic tool or whatever, you should be fine. As long as you know like a preset of 10 or 20 rules, you should be able to use anything. But I prefer this. As I was saying, I would have copy paste at 3 different locations, and one of them was not working. And I would ask the AI why, and it would tell me, oh, it's because I did database polling here. And I'm like, why? And it's like, oh, I noticed that we used other examples at other places, and I went ahead with this one because by my research, it's the best one. But then my question is, why are these two not the same as this one? And trust me, trying to debug this, one of them doesn't work, I fix them. But the other two break now. So I fix them, and this one breaks. It's always one out of the 3 of them. And when I told it to just, okay, take a look at how these listeners are made, come up with one solution. I don't care which one, just come up with one solution and implement it everywhere. It did, it had bugs. I fixed the bugs, but the thing is, I fixed the bug once and not 3 times for three different implementations, and it worked. So sometimes AI will just switch their opinion on something and implement something that you didn't ask them to, or implement something that you already have in code, but in a different way, even though you didn't tell it to, because it thinks it's better. And these are some traps that you can also get into. You can always have it compare the idea it has with your code, find something similar, talk about it, and then choose a solution to either refactor your old code or adapt the new idea to the old code. Okay, and the total cost of me making an application is on the screen. I did mention I got to demos, but I'm not happy with it. When I say I'm not happy with it, I mean I'm not allowed to press a specific button on a specific site because it will break the application. And only me and my friend know that. We have it live on Lovable because Lovable also hosts your applications, which is really cool. You press a few buttons and it will publish your application just to their own hosting. You can use a custom DNS as well, but we did not get into that. We didn't get that far. 6 months, $500, application is still broken. I could probably rewrite the whole thing in a week in Cloud now using the like $20 subscription. With the knowledge I have, with the knowledge of the application I have, reusing the code, of course, but it works, doesn't work as I would like it to, but I just wasted time and money. So if you want to learn anything, it is make a plan, follow the plan, and just use the correct AI tool. Or spend maybe a week studying how to use an AI tool before you actually start investing money. If you're doing it for free or on a subscription level like Claude, then it's fine. You don't have much to lose. You will just hit a weekly limit and you'll have to wait. Yep. Now, somebody asked why not use Claude Code, or do I prefer Claude Code? I am currently using Claude Code. The story behind me starting to use Claude Code is also interesting. So that friend, after we invested a lot of money, said, you know what? We have to make a new app, but make a mobile app. And I thought, fine, I want to learn, even though I am a senior programmer, I do like to learn. I do like to make applications in my spare time. If it takes an hour of my day or 5 hours of my weekend, it doesn't matter. I'm always trying something new. So he said, let's make a mobile app. I said, sure, let me check if Lovable does it, because in my head, Lovable was still the best option. And Lovable doesn't support mobile applications. And then I found a couple of frameworks that can translate it from, because Lovable works in React, it can turn it to React Native, I can make it mobile friendly. It doesn't matter. I just decided to not do Lovable at all. I went ahead and researched a bit more. We found like base 44, I believe. It works something like mobile applications, and I just told my friend, look, you gotta give me like a month to like mentally recuperate from this loss, and then I'll figure something out. And in that month, he did something really interesting. He paid for Claude Code, the cheapest one, and implemented the whole application. So the application that we planned to work for even longer than the previous one, because it wasn't as feature heavy, but it was a lot more view heavy. We would have like 40 views or something. He managed to do it in a month. Version 1 stable works, doesn't have a database, doesn't have an admin panel, but the application works. You can go to the clients with the application, show the application, and tell them, hey, this is something that we can do for you. And I just looked at him and I said, how? And he said, bro, Claude Code. And I'm like, I'm canceling my ChatGPT subscription. At that moment, I sat down, opened my laptop, canceled ChatGPT, took Claude Code or Claude, and said, let me try it. Yeah. And at the start, I tried using it again as ChatGPT, and then I said, you know what? I'm going all in. Cloud CLI, I think I have it here. yeah, this is the application idea. Claude CLI, install it, log in locally, set up the environment, and ask a senior dev at the company that uses Claude, how do I use this? Like, what are the commands? What can I do? And he wrote me this huge paragraph that I did not understand at all at the time. He said, let me try to paraphrase. For plan mode, I would use Sonnet with extra high thinking to save up on tokens and also make it a bit faster. But then after the plan mode is done, I would have it review it with Opus on low thinking because you already have a plan set in motion. After reviewing your plan, I would write it to a local folder that's in git ignore, and then I would switch back to Opus on medium and have it start implementing the task. And I'm like, wait, what is Sonnet? What is high? What are you talking about? And he sent me some docs and said, take a look at this. And I took a look at it. I found out what those words meant. It's the model, it's the thinking, how long it will think and stuff like that. Then I researched what is plan mode. Keep in mind, my friend made the application without plan mode. He had everything in context all of the time. And every time he turns on his Mac or laptop, it would have to refetch all of that stuff, wasting like 10% of his daily usage. And I investigated how it works, started a random application. I made some like website for uploading pictures or whatever, doesn't matter. And it worked the first time. Yeah. And my friend told me, okay, for the new application idea, we don't have a backend, we don't have a database, we don't have an admin panel. Can you do this? And I told him, yes, just tell Claude to export your application context. So introspect the whole application, do it multiple times, generate a plan file, and send it to me. He did. It took about 17 minutes because he put it on extra high, wasted all of his tokens, of course, had to do it twice. Sent it to me, I put it in my application, and I said, hey, Claude, I have this file. I need to make an admin panel for it. Can you do this? And Claude went and just went nuts. It did everything. It asked me, okay, which backend do you want? I said Fast API. Which frontend do you want? I said Angular. Okay, what do you want for a database? We had a Firebase database already set up. Okay, can you give me the credentials? I did. It created the Firebase account. The Firebase settings file. It did everything for me. I was just sitting there watching it and just see like files pop up. And after a long while, it stopped, and I came back and I saw session limit reached. What is a session limit? Google it. You have a predefined amount of tokens you can spend every 4 hours, I believe. So I waited it for that to come back. So I said continue. It booted up the full admin panel for me in under, let's say, 8 hours with that small pause of me doing nothing. I just pressed yes and went. Shift tab to go auto accept mode and just do whatever you want. I give you full permission. It could have blown my laptop up probably, the permissions I gave it. It did everything. It worked. I tested it. It works. And then my friend comes to me and says, oh, that's great. I added 3 more features. And I'm like, you can't do this to me. And he's like, I gotcha. And sends me the file with just those features in it, like the documentation on it. And I paste it again. Hey, we have these new features. Can you implement it? Yes, I can. And makes the new views. And it just works on its own, works a lot better. And it's not just Claude Code, it's just these dedicated AI tools that connect to your code base and just do whatever they need to do. While I was here stuck copy pasting files to ChatGPT 4 months before that, or 6 months before that, and now I just press a button. It does everything faster, cheaper, and I can work on something else. I can still code in my own time, and I don't have to like think about if it's going to be finished, if it's not going to be finished, if it's going to work. One cool thing that I also found accidentally is Claude can test your application. And I don't mean write tests. No. You can run your application and tell Claude, hey, my application is running, test it. And it will call APIs, or either that, or you can boot up Playwright as well, so you can click on your application. It will call your APIs for the backend to test everything. And since it has access to your env file, If you give it, of course, it has access to your database, it can connect to your database, and it can immediately see if it's working fine. Maybe you're trimming some data, but Claude just tests it, sends an API, connects to your database, and does everything for you. And I didn't know before that I can literally make this into a skill and just be like, hey, Claude, test my application. I would just have this copy paste in a notepad file. I would have like 3 or 4 copy paste. I would have a copy paste that said, for the rest of this session, follow these rules, and then the rules that I want. The ones I mentioned, like always ask me questions, never invent new stuff, never invent fields, never make changes that I did not accept. And I don't mean the Claude Code accept. I mean, give me your full idea. And if I say, yes, you can do it. And you have the full permission to do it, but just ask me first, Now, when I got used to using Claude, when I accepted the fact that it helps out a lot, I wanted to learn a lot more how to optimize it. As I mentioned, I had one senior colleague, I still do, that works with Claude, and he would say stuff like, oh, I spawned 4 sub-agents that would introspect my whole application, and then all of them would implement a feature independently without file crossings. And I would just sit like, I completely agree. I now know what all of those things mean, of course, but at that time, I was just looking at him with his terminal split into like 4 terminals, and all of them are like coding at the same time. And I'm like, how are you not hitting your limit? And he's like, oh, I have the like $100 cloud one. And I'm like, you're crazy, dude. And what I decided to do recently, about a month ago, I started studying for Claude Anthropic certificate. There's a website that I can probably share somewhere in chat that gives you a free test. There's a website that has a free knowledge base that you can study. And it is, in my case, it helped me out a lot. I got to understand how Claude works under the hood, why it does some things, why it calls files, why it makes mistakes because I didn't tell it to do something correctly, or I forgot or skipped a part. And it took me, I think, 3 weeks, almost a month, to just fully learn everything and just ace the test. I didn't take the official one, but the online one, I'm doing that like 95% or something. So there are free tutor camps online. They're not tutor camps, it's just a document that you can read. And a quiz, you can take a look, you can skim through it. It is a 1 hour read per domain. There's 5 domains. And if you are taking the test, then you can just do those quizzes. These things taught me stuff like skills. I saw that there's a comment here. How do you know when to use create rules, hooks, sub-agents, etc.? Yeah. So these things, I didn't use any before. I used to just be a vanilla Claude Code vibe coder, I guess. But after reading this certificate that I mentioned, I know what all of these are. I know when all of these should be used. So create, so you can create rules when you, as it says, you want rules to be applied, but there's strict questions like these rules are not always used by Claude. Claude can choose to skip these rules, so you can make them in your settings JSON, or you can put them in your Claude MD, but the best place is the setting JSON in the project repository root. Yeah. The sub agents, if you want to do multiple things in parallel and you want the outputs of those tools to be combined or merged into one output or one decision, you can do sub agents. And this is a really good question because a month ago I would have no idea. And now this is domain 1, chapter 2 or something. It has 5 chapters. So just a small read through these things gets you to understand what these things do. I still didn't use rules ever. I never touched the settings JSON file. But if I ever get on a project where there's people who have been working with Claude for a year or something, like a lot more than I have, I can figure out what they did. I can see these files, I can interpret these files, and I can figure out, oh, it's probably here because of this, or this doesn't work because of this, and stuff like that. Yeah, sometimes Claude does not provide required results. What will be the pipeline? Get the pipeline to solve these issues. Yeah, sometimes Claude doesn't return the actual data you need for the pipeline to choose the next action. This is also like a question, meaning that your tool call or that step is incomplete or not written correctly. You should always have Claude return some data and tell you what exactly happened. So getting stuff back, like an error has occurred, is terrible, but getting back 529 internal server overload or whatever is actually like a good example. You know, it's good data to know what happened. All of this is in the test. I am on my way to build something bigger. How do you make sure AI generated backend code is actually production ready rather than just functional? My opinion, if you are using tool assisted AI assisted coding, the 50% of the time you save, you'll spend on testing your application. AI can write code extremely quickly, but you need to test your application again because you can tell it to test it, but the thing is it's going to test edge cases it thinks it needs. It will never try to break the application like actual users. Because trust me, users, I mean, me first, whenever somebody, a friend of mine makes a website, I try to break it. Recently, a friend of mine made a website where it's like a game where you study for the Claude certificate. I managed to hack it in under 15 minutes because it was vibe coded, had no specific security and stuff like that. And it was just a fun project, like 15 to 30 minutes of me just like playing around. You need to spend a lot of time testing it. You can learn some testing. You can write tests. You can learn E2E tests. You can learn a bit about pen testing. Just make sure the security is fine. An API breaking, it's fine, but somebody accessing something that they shouldn't isn't fine. Prompt evaluation techniques, or you're just trying to follow best practices while writing them? I try to follow the best practices. I have held a couple of lectures on prompt engineering, so I am well versed in how to write a prompt and when to write a better prompt for AI. Not just for Claude Code, I mean in general, in generative AI as well, NLPs and everything. So I try to follow the best practices, and more often than not, like 80% of times, it's good enough. And then when I get stuck or run into an issue, I have to debug what happened. And I am currently debugging an issue using Longsmith. The AI is not working as it should. Is it advisable to use AI assistant for ML coding projects too? Yes. I don't like ML. I think ML, in my opinion, is a bit boring, not because it's boring, because it has been solved, in my opinion. So you have algorithms, they are predefined, you have to figure out where to use them. I like generative AI a lot more. I worked with ML. I held a 6 months internship where students created an ML project using AWS Bedrock. They use generative AI as well, so I have experience there. You can come up with an idea, talk to AI about the idea. AI can give you its own ideas, but it's not going to invent anything new, trust me. So your idea is always going to be probably better than theirs. And you can talk to it, ask it about which algorithm to use. You can always use 2 or 3 different algorithms to compare the results, and it will help you out. So I do recommend not maybe to have it fully write your application, but it can help you narrow down why your accuracy might be low. Maybe you're not passing the correct configurations to your algorithms and stuff like that. How do you decide which parts of a development workflow should be delegated to AI and which parts still require deep human reasoning and expertise? Ooh, this is this is a good question. Yes. Where's my mouse? Okay. So if it's something that the team has already decided, for example, the whole team sat down and they decided to implement an application, they defined 7 different views, doesn't matter the number, those things can now be done by AI. People have sat down, they have agreed upon something, and it's predefined. But if like somebody figures out, hey, this 8th view might come in handy, or this would be really good for the client, then I would still, I could talk to the AI to get its opinion. Hey, is this worth it? Be honest with me. Is this worth implementing? Will it take me an hour or 5 days? Get its idea, and then talk to the team, have somebody approve it, and then start implementing it if it's fine. As I mentioned, AI can't come up with ideas. So when you need to invent something new or telling it, make the UI pretty, it can't. It's going to steal somebody's UI or make a logo. At that point, I think a small amount of human input is necessary. Make a logo, but I want it to be squared. I want to have circles or a face on it or like these colors, just to nudge it a bit at the right direction. But at other points, when it's something that it's, we're making a login. A login has been predefined millions of times. Hey, Claude, make me a login. I don't have to tell it anything. Use the current front ends style sheets for color schemas, whatever. You have a standard set somewhere. And somebody just asked me a question about that. How to choose the colors and the animation according to the content? If we allow to do its own, then it will build some blue or purple color, and where did it go? And glass morphism. You can predefine a standard at the start. You can give it a color schema and put this in the rules and say, or in the CloudMD file, always use these colors. So it's basically like working with themes in Angular or React. You have predefined colors and you're not allowed to sway from them. You can use the primary, secondary, warning, and like the critical or whatever it's called. So you can have a file where your designer writes every color schema, what should be used where and how, and then have AI follow those rules. And if it still makes errors, make sure it does a double trip after it generates the code to double check if it invented a color or not. I do like these questions. I think I skipped a question, so just give me a second. We can generate the project using prompts, but we often don't know much about security, what needs to be kept secured and what doesn't. Will we get to see how you guys are working on security? I will not be showcasing that today, but this is a good question because it takes me back to something I forgot to talk about. I think it's next slide, so let me just double check. Yes, okay. To answer this question, will AI replace us? And then I will answer your question. The AI will not replace us, at least not in the next 5 to 10 years, not fully, because it still needs us for ideas. It still needs us to tell it what to do. And if it didn't, some AI would write some bad code, every other AI would train on the bad code, and their average would fall off. So just imagine you're trying to learn something from a person that doesn't know how to program, and then somebody asks you about it, and then somebody asks that person, all of your knowledge will fall off because you're trying to do it the wrong way. I think in 10 years, AI will get to a point where everything is solved. They have examples for everything, and you can just write a prompt and just go. It doesn't matter. It's going to read your mind, basically. But it does help us speed up the development process. Instead of me debugging an issue for 3 hours, I can have it debug an issue for half an hour while I'm investigating something else, for example, the security. I still believe that the thing that differentiates a junior from a senior that uses vibe coding is the junior will probably forget about security. Maybe they forget about security. Maybe they forget about hashing the password. Maybe they forget about something that's really simple. For example, storing the JVT token in a cookie, and then somebody can maybe change it. While a senior will know all of these things, and they will tell Claude immediately to do these things. They will tell the Claude, for security, follow these instructions. For token storage, we're going to use OAuth 2, my bad. So store it in a token, never store it in a cookie, never show the password and stuff like that. You still need to have the knowledge, the bare knowledge of programming, to be able to effectively use Claude to make an application or any tool-assisted AI. Because you will run into an issue where my friend made an application because he was bored, he didn't pay attention. He said, hey, there's a website that holds questions for Cloud certificate. I want an RPG, make it for me. Make it fun, give me levels, give me items. He has a sticker vault where you can buy stickers, which I also hacked as well. It was easy. And he made that really quickly without paying attention, which is why it was easily breakable. If he spent 5 more minutes on the prompt, I definitely could not be able to even touch that prompt. I would just open the website and just close the website. Is there such a thing as a perfect prompt? No. No, maybe there's a perfect prefix for your prompt. Do not invent stuff. Always cite your findings. Always make sure that what you're saying actually exists on the internet and is from a blog or something. There's like these prefixes from prompt engineering that you can learn, and those are semi-perfect. You can use them whenever you want, but there is no perfect prompt, and I don't think there ever will be. You can open up 2 ChatGPT chats and tell them to write the same prompt for Claude. You'll get 2 different prompts. The same ChatGPT, the same model, the same everything. One of them will give you A or B. Or it might have even happened to you when you're talking to ChatGPT. It gives you 2 options. It doesn't know what to do. So there's never going to be a perfect prompt. It always differs. You can write the same thing but get a different answer. If you were starting your journey as a developer today, knowing what you know about AI now, what would you learn differently to become an effective AI first developer? I would spend my time watching videos talking about how AI works. I hate watching videos about how stuff works because I usually get bored. I can't keep my focus a lot. But for this, definitely, instead of wasting 8 hours debugging an issue by copy pasting files to ChatGPT, I could have spent 4 hours learning how to actually do it better and then an hour fixing it and save myself 3 hours. I would learn how it works internally, and I would learn, for example, if you want to use Claude Code, check the certificate. Take a look. It's not that hard. You don't have to pass it. Like, you don't have to go for the exam. It's just a really good informational, how do I say? I mean, documentation. Yeah. What is the biggest misconception you had about AI assisted development before becoming an AI first developer, and what experience changed your perspective? It was the fact that I thought I would have to clean up after it. The fact that I thought it's going to write some code and then I'm going to have to go through all of the files it's changed to double check if everything is fine. Look at every line of code, every method it invoked, double check if you don't have to do that. When you have experience, you can take a look. It's like, oh, this method is called fetch users by ID. I can just take a glance. It looks good. It could be written better. There's no security breach in it. It's good enough. So those are some things that I thought before you would have to clean up after AI. No, it just takes half that time to double check what it did. And if you are working correctly, working feature-wise, feature by feature, you will have these small changes. You take a look at them once, you approve them, they're fine, or somebody else takes a look, or an AI agent takes a look at the code. You can have Claude write some code and then open up a new terminal and tell it to check the code. This is way better because it doesn't have the context from the previous one. It will give you a fresh perspective. So just these things, me thinking that I'll have to spend time fixing after AI, well, you do not have to do it so much. If AI replaces us after 10 years, which professions will be safe for tech job markets? I don't know. If anyone has an actual answer for this, I would like to know to start studying for it now. But I still think developers are going to stay around just to nudge the AI. The AI is going to work, but we're going to press the buttons anyway in the end to make it work. Just take a look at the previous questions. I saw a repeating one. Cybersecurity, I mean, I agree. Because those people they just know way too much and they're really hard to actually replace. What approach do you use to ensure you build what solves problems while using AI? Okay, well, I would test the application first. I would run into an issue. I would try to test as much of the application as possible. And then if I want to fix a specific bug, I have to tell AI everything I know. So it's basically as if I brought a person next to me and told them, fix this, but this is what you know. So what view, what button, or what flow, what event triggered, the network tab, check the response code, the request I sent it, the response I got. Eventually enable logging because that's the best way to actually tell the AI what happened. It can also track your logs as well while the application is running. And I would tell it hey, can you double check what could be causing this issue? I wouldn't say fix the issue. Find what is causing the issue. And then the AI would write like a huge paragraph. This, that. I would read the paragraph, double check what it gave me. And then if it makes sense, I would say go ahead with the fix. I often run into issues where what they're saying doesn't make sense. And I know they're wrong. And then I tell them, you're wrong. And it says, oh, my bad, I am wrong. Gives me a second perspective. I started using this trick where AI writes me like a document. I tell it you have two issues, and that's it. I don't even check the document. I just tell it you have two issues. It tries so hard to find those two issues that it fixes the whole document. And then it says, oh, you were right. I found one issue. I'm not sure about the second issue that you're talking about. So just gaslighting the AI sometimes makes it better. Telling it, but you told me this is wrong, even though they didn't. Or I know for a fact there is one issue in this implementation. My application still has a bug, but I don't know where, and just let it try to fix it. It starts with a fresh context, spawns a couple of sub-agents with no context, tries to fix the issue before you can actually find it. I don't know why it tries harder at that point. Let me just grab a drink. Claude Code versus Cursor. I had a couple of colleagues switch from Claude Code to Cursor. Some of them switched to Codex. They're telling me both of them are better than Claude Code. For me, Claude Code gets the job done. I don't care. Honestly, you can work. You can do the thing I did where you copy paste files to ChatGPT and get them back if it works for you. Claude Code works for me. I will try other options. They do have arguments why they're better. They've proven with numbers that the solutions are faster, more effective, more cost effective, less bugs and stuff like that. So I will take a look at Codex and Cursor. What you will suggest to recheck the already done work? Maybe just tell it, hey, I ran my application. Can you stress test it? Or the best option is just always have it keep tests up to date. Do test driven development. When you start working on the app, phase one should always be structurize the backend or frontend. So create the folders, create the files, virtual environment, .envs, git ignores, migration files, and everything. And then before step two, say, okay, I need tests. Focus on writing tests. Just give it a number, say like 60 tests. Cover every edge case multiple times and let it write tests. So once it's actually writing the code, it will run the tests automatically, see which ones are failing, and then it's going to go back to its own context and be like, I wrote this test because of this edge case. It's a good test. The code is failing. Let me fix the code. That's a way that you can just avoid having to test it as well, which I fully support. But still, if it has a front end, test it out on the front end. Do you believe now that focusing in higher level design, architecture, design, pattern, scalability, etc., is more important than the code itself? Yes. So knowing what you can make is good. Knowing how it should be made is great, but you don't have to make it anymore. You are basically delegating your work to AI. So if you do understand how some keywords work, how patterns work, how architecture works, then you're doing fine already. Because it is harder to like get an application set up, which backend, which frontend should I use, which database, should I go cloud or not, where should I deploy it and stuff like this, because AI can give you hints, but knowing options is a lot better than just telling AI choose for me. It can always choose for you, but you can tell it, oh, but I believe that maybe Node.js is better than Python for this one, and then have a conversation with it. Knowing the bare minimum is literally what you need to even start coding. Like anyone can use AI to code, but they will not do it proficiently. Me, as an example, a person that had 3.5 years of experience when they started using AI and had issues versus people that don't have experience. To a beginner person who is building an app for the first time should rely on Claude Code or write code by itself. You're probably going to get contradicting answers to this. I still believe that knowing how to write code is a skill. It's a sort of an art. You do need to write some code on your own, even though it's going to be bad code. just so you know how code is written, how stuff is handled, what exists, basically to learn the keywords. So not a programming language, not the syntax of a language, but the semantics of the coding. And then after you know how everything works, even though it just narrows down to like 5 or 6 different things, when you know these things, you can let Claude or AI go wild because you will be able to read the code and see what it does. But I believe that if you do want to learn what programming is, then just start writing something on your own. Ask Claude to make a plan for you. You can do this, or ChatGPT. Make a small plan. I want to learn stuff from the scratch. It's going to start you with variables, functions, loops, arrays, and like these basic things. And when you know how all of this works, how libraries work, how frameworks work, what programming languages there are, or what each one of them does best, then you can use AI. Claude designed for front end rather than Claude Code with a skill. I've had students at the current internship tell me that Claude Design did wonders. They implemented Claude Design on their application and it generated them some really good design. And I can actually confirm that their design is good. So I'm guessing Claude Design is fine. And I would just say Claude Design. I think it's just focused on actually making the front end design and making it work rather than a skill. Do you ever prompt AI to use a certain design pattern, or do you think they already handle it pretty good? They handle it pretty good. The design patterns have been predefined, and there's a list of them, and AI has a list of examples where they are used correctly. Sometimes you might want a specific one. For example, I have a state machine in an application. If I told Claude, which I did just to test it out, the full spec of the application that has to be done, it did not offer a state machine. But a state machine was a perfect fix, which is, again, as I'm saying, you need to know these things to be able to correct it. It would have taken me a different way. The application would have looked completely different, worked the same in the end. But I have a state machine that I prefer. I know how it works, rather than some other thing that who knows. 2016. In 2026, is staying only in the software engineering field future-proof, or should we also expand into areas like data science or AI ML? I mean, depends. I didn't like AI. I didn't want to work with AI. I talked to my CTO and he told me, look, AI is the future. You're either going to jump on the train, and if it doesn't pop, the bubble doesn't pop, you're set. If the bubble pops, you're back where you were. You lose nothing. And I started hard focusing on generative AI then, and it's fun. It is really fun just making applications with generative AI. If you do want to start learning AI, start making some chatbots and Google Rug, and you should be fine. Like if you can combine those two things, you have a good starting point. I'm actually going to now switch to a second presentation because I think I'm done with the first one. Yes, I've answered this. It will not replace a developer yet. It will just save my time. And the bottlenecks, I've went through all of these as well. Yeah, I have a second presentation, but I will now focus on writing a random application with Claude. So the first session, I thought about to just show you my examples. I hope you learned anything. I hope that some of you also ran into same issues, but now know why those issues occurred, and that you will try some new stuff. But I will now switch to a different presentation. And I will talk about a bit more about Claude Code, about rules, sub-agents, and stuff like this. These are mostly things from the certificate. I will try to go through this quickly, so we have about 15 minutes left for the application. So I can prompt the application, the AI, to make the application, and then we can talk. You can ask me questions and I will respond while it's building the app in the background. And I'll show you my process that I follow basically to make an application. So a couple of things that I will go through in this application, it is a lot more focused on how Claude works. This might not be fully correct for every AI assistant. This is just for Claude because I'm studying for it and I have like this, I have more knowledge for Claude than the other ones. So I'll talk about the mental model, how Claude works, about CloudMD file, what it actually represents, what are skills and commands, what are rules and permissions, and settings and MCP. I had a question before about rules and subagents, but I'm going to cover it again. If you do have questions, you can ask them now, but I'm not going to promise I'm going to be able to answer it if I don't see them. So if you have questions, you can maybe save it for like 2:40, and then I'll just go through all of them. So the mental model, what is the agentic loop, how Claude works, what it does under the hood. So basically, when you write a prompt, Claude reads your prompt and then it reconstructures the prompt for itself, then reads the necessary files it needs to actually do what you told it to do. It fetches the data, maybe calls some service, and then gives you a response, and then you verify the response and then keep going. This is when you're just talking to Claude normally, not really applicable for Claude Code because it will change code, but just I ask you a question, it uses some tools to get an answer and gives me an answer. So what can Claude access? It can access files in your directory, bash commands if you let it. It has web search and web fetch by default, and any MCP tool you have connected. I'll talk about MCP tools later on, but think of it basically, I have a Gmail profile. I want Claude to be able to fetch data from my Gmail. That's an MCP. So basically connecting to some third-party API or something that you like made locally, that's kind of an MCP. Why this loop matters, you will run into same issues as I did with ChatGPT because of context management. You still have to watch out for those things, but even more here, because you keep talking to your agent, to Claude, constantly, and it keeps filling up your context. And sometimes it even runs the compact command on its own, tries to minimize the context, goes down from like 1,000,000 to 200,000, but then it forgets a couple of things. So the rules still apply. You have to watch out for your context, and I will teach you a couple of ways that you can actually do this for Claude Code. So to get started with Claude Code, for you that don't have it, you have to install the CLI. You have to run the Claude command. It will ask you to log in. You do have to have a paid subscription to use Claude Code. If you are debating whether to use Claude Code or something else, I switched to Claude Code, and I don't believe I'm going to switch off from Claude Code. So if my opinion matters anything, Claude Code is good enough, simple, cheap. Sorry, I didn't run into issues with it, but if you do want to try something else, do let me know if it's better. Then you start a session by just typing in the word Claude. I'll show this later as well. You just type in the word Claude in your terminal, and it boots up the Claude agent. And now, as it says, ask a question first, require a small change, and then watch it ask for approval. We'll show this later on as well. The first command I ask is going to ask me, will you allow bash to run on your computer? The first thing. And then sometimes you might forget this. You're gonna go grab a coffee, go eat, come back after half an hour. It's still gonna be stuck on the first step, and you're gonna lose time. So that's something to watch out for, to give it correct permissions. If you are already using Claude Code and you have an existing application, you should run the init command. This will let AI read the whole project, and it will create a summary and then tell it to store the summary somewhere. I think it does it in CloudMD by default, but I always like to split it per feature. So after the summary is finished, I would like to say, create a new folder called docs, and for every feature, create a detailed summary what the feature does. Just so that I can later on read what the application does, I can jump through the code, maybe some function references and stuff like that to make it easier. These are just some tips to get started on an existing project. Now, CloudMD. CloudMD is your global context. Let's just call it like that. So whenever you write a message to Claude Code, everything that's in Claude MD and everything that's in your history will get sent to Claude, meaning this file should not be large, meaning exactly what I said previously on the last slide, where it would make a large Claude MD file, split it into smaller ones, because I don't want Claude file to be large. You have three places or three, yeah, so there's a difference between the Claude and the auto memory. The Claude code, you write it or you ask Claude to write it, while the auto memory is what Claude does on its own. As you're talking to it, it keeps like the most important stuff in its context. Claude MD contains instructions, rules, what the application does, how to run the application, and stuff like that, while auto memory contains everything Claude needs and doesn't want to check the history for. So stuff like from now on, always do this can be in the auto memory, so it doesn't have to check if it can or cannot. Claude MD, whenever you open up a new session, you type in Claude in terminal. If that root folder has Claude, it will load it into the session of the agent, of the AI. But auto memory only remembers the 200 lines from each session, and like, you know, when you start, it's going to load the previous 200 lines, and like just work with that. And Claude MD is best used for coding standards, workflows, architecture. So it's stuff that you do not want to repeat to Claude, but it's not always applicable. So I can write how my login flow should work, but it's only applicable for the login flow. This shouldn't be in the auto memory because it's not always going to be used. So it's something that applies to the project a lot of the times, while auto memory is something that should be always. You know, it's like the preferences, my name and last name, always end your messages like this and stuff like that. Like, for example, one thing I use, never run tests for me, because I don't want my tests to be ran because they take 10 minutes and then I have to wait 10 minutes. So it will always ask me or tell me, you should probably run tests now. I am not allowed to do so. Here's the command. And this is in the auto memory because it's always there. It should be always done. Where the Claude MD file lives, there are three places where the file can live. So it can be, I'm going to use my mouse here. Yeah, I can hover. It can be in the user's device, laptop. I'm not going to say laptop. It can be in your personal Claude MD file, and this only applies to you for every project. So think of it as a global context. All of these rules I mentioned that I have, if I want them for every project, I should put them in here, and I have. So no application ever will run tests. No application ever will push to GitHub. I don't want that. I don't want Claude to touch GitHub. No application ever will start fixing code until I tell it to, because you'll notice often that you tell Claude, hey, I found a bug here, and it will just fix it. No, find the bug and then we'll fix it. So all of these rules I have here for every project because I do want it for every project. Then you have project level Claude MD files. These are files or rules, instructions only for your project. So they are project specific. Maybe a project is written in Angular and Node.js, and the second one is Java, React, doesn't matter. Those two files are going to be different and per project. And then you have a local one. You can make a file for yourself for the project locally. So you override the project one, but not for every project, only for that one. Yeah. And the priority of these goes, it checks the user one first, and then it checks the local one and checks the project one, which makes sense because if you have a user file, it is the highest priority, and then it checks the local one that can override, and then it checks the actual one for the project. You should never push the user one or the local one because those are yours. The ones for the project should be pushed. Now, this is touches a bit about prompt engineering. It is basically how to write a normal prompt or instruction. So the instruction format code properly is bad. What does properly mean? What does code mean? Do you mean every text file? Do you mean do we fix migrations, SQL files, scripts? Do I touch the README file? So you just tell it use two space indentation, and then it's going to know, oh, so for every code file I should do this. Even this example that I have here is the correct one. It might be bad. It should maybe say every coding file should have a two-space indentation. It should pick it up correctly. Test your changes. Test what changes? Test with what? Front-end, back-end, both of them? One of them? Should I boot the application, hit the endpoints? No, so tell it, run npm test before committing. And this can be put as a hook in your settings, so it runs every time. These are some things from the certificate. Keep files organized. Again, which files, what does organized mean? Maybe this model prefers a specific structure that you do not have in your application. So you'll have a backend following a specific structure while your frontend is doing something completely differently. Will it break the existing files if it changes the structure as well? So you should give it a few examples, like API handlers live in source API handlers, services live here, or if you have a link to a predefined standard, you can give it a link, oh, follow these standards, and it should be able to always fetch this via web fetch. We're now going to talk about skills and commands. These used to be different before. A few months ago, they actually made them the same thing, but whenever you have a copy paste somewhere that you always give to Claude, so let's say I want you to test my application, run Python tests. I want you to feed me back the time it took and then run the front-end test. So just something that you constantly give it, but you copy paste it, that's a skill or a command. So think of it basically as a shortcut to do something. And these are really easy to write, really easy to invoke. You can have this skill that I just mentioned, you can have it be written, and then you just do /test. And it will automatically allow the tools that you need that you have defined. So it will not ask you for confirmation. It will do exactly what you told it. It will never run anything else or answer, what do you mean by test? Because it's in the skill. And this is how a skill is written. So stage and commit the current changes. That's the description of the skill. And the name of the skill is commit. So you'll notice is my mouse visible? I hope it is. This is the actual name of your skill. Meaning if I ever type /commit, it will do this. It will fetch this and run this as if I copy pasted it to the AI. Meaning it will tell it to stage and commit the current changes, disable model invocation, and the allowed tools are git add and git commit. It didn't say push. You'll notice that git push is not here. If it said stage and commit and push, you would have to add push. The reason you're adding allowed tools here is so it doesn't push by accident. If they said git and then the wildcard, it could just drop your whole repository. Who knows why? Maybe somebody types in /commit, but actually delete my repository and just drops everything. So this is the reason why allowing tools or limiting the tools is really important. And there's some instructions down there that says, review the diff, write a clear commit message, and then commit. So it doesn't just do git add, git commit. It will check your files, check the difference, say what was done, and then commit it. So it's basically like a hint to the AI what to put in the commit, because the commit takes an argument. Again, skills, exactly same. It is personal, it is project, and it is plugin. Personal is, again, more important than the project one. If you have two of them, it's going to take the one from that's personal. The project one is for the project, and the plugin one is for the plugin. As it mentions down there, personal beats project, and project overrides a bundled one with the same name. This is so that you can actually have a preset of your own rules and not have to delete the ones from the project or like play around that. Where is my mouse? There it is. So there's rules and permissions. They are two same things, but different things. I'm going to start with permissions because they are a lot easier to explain. These are things that must be enforced. So after Claude does everything, it will check settings JSON if it is able to do this or not. For example, if you put here never push to GitHub, it cannot even try to do it. The command is not just unavailable. It doesn't have to be in the disallowed tools. Maybe we pulled somebody's somebody's rules that allow this, or somebody messed it up in our personal document or whatever. If it's in the settings JSON, it cannot happen. If it's in the rules, then it can sometimes slip through. For example, you can have a rule that says never push to GitHub, but you invoked a skill that pushes to GitHub. So what should happen then? If it's in the settings JSON, it's not going to work. If it's in the rules, depends if the model is feeling generous or not. So these are some things to just watch out for. If it's something that has to be enforced, put it in the settings JSON. If it's a basic rule that guides you to something, that put it in the rules. These are how permissions look. So you can allow, disallow, ask, deny. So deny means you can't run it. It doesn't exist. I'm just going to tell you no. Ask is going to prompt you in the Claude Code, hey, yes, always allow for this command, or no. And allow means always allow. I think by default, web search, web fetch, and bash commands are allowed. I mean, you allow bash anyways when you run the Claude. It's the first thing it asks, but those are the three things that are allowed. While editing files and stuff like that, it will prompt you every time. The settings, as I mentioned already, it's where you keep the musts. So the things that must happen, permissions, or something to do before a specific skill, something to do before some, let's say you always want to get a response in German. You can put it in the settings JSON, it will always follow this. It will always be triggered. Doesn't matter if something failed or something got skipped, it will follow that rule. Unlike the Claude MD, the skills and commands, the priority here is actually inverted. So the most important one here is the local one. So the Claude settings local JSON, then the project one, then the user one. But unlike the Claude MD where the user one was most important. This is because these are really important settings. It's a security breach if somebody changes them. And it means you could just have a setting in your own Claude settings JSON that breaks one of these project settings and overrides something that should be overwritten. This way, they made it so that if you want it, you have to delete it from the project and then to be able to run it. If you delete it from the project, that means that you probably know what you're doing. You're doing it on purpose and not on accident, and it shouldn't be an issue. Again, permissions, so which ones are allowed, which ones are disallowed. env variables, their default values and stuff like that. Just like you can read up on these things. You will never do these. You will always tell Claude, hey, add this to my settings JSON. But it's good to know how to read this file. Now, I mentioned MCPs already. I gave an example of an email mailing service as an MCP. A lot of third-party services, let's say Jira, let's say probably YouTube, let's say Gmail and stuff like that, have these things defined, and you can just connect them to your Claude. And then Claude might ask, hey, can you give me the API key for your Gmail? Or can you give me the credentials? It will open up an authentication page for you to log in, whatever. And then when you tell it, hey, fetch my emails, it can. It is written in the MCP. It is able to connect to it. And this is pre-built. You don't have to build anything because somebody sat down and said, I'm going to make a connector to Gmail. They did. It works perfectly. You just use it. You can write MCP connectors or MCPs for your local application. So you made something, some server, and you want AI to be able to connect to it. You can write your own. There is a standard that you have to follow to write it, or you can have Claude help you out. And then AI should be able to connect to your other application. So it doesn't just hit some endpoints or something, it actually does some magic as well. Here, for example, you can add, I haven't forgot what this one is. It adds the documentation for MCPs to your MCP, so you have access, and then you can just like write them out. Again, MCP, you can add it to a scope or a user level. You can have MCPs that touch your personal third-party APIs, while the project might touch some other ones. So you can again split them. All of these things are always project and user and local if you have to. I've never made anything local, just use the project one and the user one for global rules. And just a starter setup, when you start working on an application, you can run init to generate CloudMD that I mentioned. It's going to check the whole code base and write what everything is done. You can also write your own prompt that says introspect the code base, so you can change the output, focus more on shorter details, so it doesn't do its own /init, because /init is a skill again that it has predefined somewhere. And if you just tell it exactly what to do, you might get a better response that suits your needs more, or just go with /init and then work on changing the file. Add one or two skills, run tests for me, commit to GitHub, fetch from GitHub. You can have it fetch from GitHub and fix merge conflicts. This is so good. I recently had an issue where I had 12 files that had merge conflicts, and I just said, I have conflicts, fix them, don't break anything. It saved me at least 4 hours of debugging. I would have to call 3 different people to have them sit with me to review AI written code to see what should be kept or not. And I just told it, fix this for me, and it did. It was probably the best thing. I used it forever, and it's just good to know it can even handle merge conflicts. Of course, before I committed, I sat with them actually and had them test their own parts of the application. It was like 3 or 4 different features. They clicked through the application. It looked fine. We pushed it. We didn't have issues yet. You can set allow and deny rules if you do have any. For starters, I don't think you will even create a skill or set these rules. You will probably just jump in an application, run init, and start working. But it's good to know that they exist. Connect MCPs if you have the need, if you want to work with something to fetch data or push data, make changes. You can. Probably not. You have your own servers, so you can skip these. But do remember that if it's online, it probably has an MCP. So if you do need to connect to a third-party API vendor that just gives you like the vendor, probably has an MCP. So check it first. If it's there, you save time. If it's not, make it on your own. And you can commit .claude. So when you're done with your findings, you have set the rules that everyone should follow. You have set what the application is, what the application does, how it should be handled. So probably somebody with a bit more experience does this. They push it, everyone pulls it, and then all of you are working the same. If you have a skill for committing or in pushing to GitHub, it will always follow the same naming convention, the same commit convention, the same amount of details and everything like that, because it is written in the project. Meaning that you won't have a commit from a person that wrote a paragraph and somebody wrote V2, or somebody wrote like me, fix the bugs, but I changed like 300 files. So that's really good. That just sets a standard for the whole project. Yeah, so recap /init the application / permissions tells you which commands it can and cannot run. /memory tells you which files it currently holds in its memory. So if you have a CloudMD and you have split it into multiple files, it can tell you if it actually picked up one of those files in its context. /MCP for working with MCPs, and /skills to see your skills, and /skill name to actually code your skill. There's a link here for Claude docs. I will send you probably in this chat. Let me see if I can actually enter the chat. I should be able to enter the chat as well, and then just send you the thing. So give me a second, please. I cannot. It's fine. I will find a way to. I can just actually drag and drop them on the screen as well. I did not know that I cannot join the chat. So we have a link here, Claude Certified. This is where you can study. So these are the 5 domains. All of them have a couple of these subdomains. They are pretty quick to go through. And they have a test that I, as you can see, missed the first time that I was doing it. exam traps and stuff like that. It's pretty simple. Oh, there's my mouse. And the certificate is on Search Safari. You'll notice that I was studying a lot. Performance and stuff like that is pretty high. So Search Safari, Cloud certified if you want to learn the certificate as well. Now, I would like to, and hopefully I should be able to, yes. So let me just move my PyCharm. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do the full thing, but we'll see. So I'm gonna create, is it free to use? Yes, both of the websites are free to use. Doing the certificate is not that simple. Doing the certificate, you need to be in a company that is that has a partnership with Anthropic to be able to actually enter it. But studying it is more than good. And trust me, like just going through it and knowing the options that are available and how it works helps you out a lot. Okay, I will just, so I will copy two prompts, an example of a good one, an example of a bad one. I gotta get used to this mouse. I used Claude to generate my examples. I talked it a bit, so I'm gonna just zoom in. I cannot zoom in. Hopefully you can see the code. Can anyone just confirm? There we go. Okay, you should be able to see the code now. It's fine. So I am in a project. I am going to open up the terminal. I have a GitHub connected as well. If I have time, I'll show you how to deploy this on render. But I just type in Claude. And it will ask me if I trust the folder. I trust the folder. And now I should be able to, my login expires in 2 days. Perfect. I should be able to work. An example of a bad prompt. We're going to be making a small CRM app. I don't even know if it's going to make it correctly in time. I will most likely just work on the front end with hard-coded values to show you, and then maybe deploy it to render. I would actually like to focus more on the questions, but Anthropic curses are already part of your. So this is an example of a bad prompt. Build me a CRM app with contacts and stuff. Used Fast API and Angular, make it look good. I've told it absolutely nothing. You know what would fix this? Just a small thing saying, ask me anything you're not sure about. So just this one sentence would fix the whole prompt. Why? It would enter interview mode where it would constantly ask me follow-up questions. And at some point, I would answer everything it needs to actually make it look good. Sure, I'm going to trust Claude with this one and just ask me anything you're not sure about. I can hopefully zoom in this as well. I can't. You're gonna have to trust me that the terminal looks good. So currently it is reading a file, the only file we have. So this is when I said it has access to bash. It is just reading this file to see what we have. And then it's going to ask me if I want to let it do stuff. Now, while it is working, I'm gonna say yes. Oh, I am not gonna say yes there. While it is working, I would like to talk about the modes it has, because this is annoying. I am already annoyed. So it keeps asking me stuff, right? I can switch to accept edits, where it will ask me to just for code changes. I didn't let me press the button. No, not that. Yeah, let me just, so accept edits, plan mode, and auto mode. So this is a whole new application. It tried to read some other projects that I have for some reason, and I just cut it off and I told it this folder, nothing else. So this could be a rule I put so it doesn't try to go outside of its bounds. It's definitely something that I should do globally because I do keep running into this more often than not. Yes, so understand this, blah, 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 before I scaffold. A few things generally change what I build, as you said to ask. I never told it to ask. It actually read it from this file, meaning that I did an oopsie. I should have just not done that, but it's fine. Let's see. Sure. I could have probably read those, but as I'm doing a demo and I don't think I'm even going to be able to fully run the app, I just had it ask questions instead of it inventing stuff. Usually the recommend option is correct unless you already have something in mind. If you are unsure, just choose the recommend. If you know what has to be done, then if it's not the recommend one, tell it what to do. I think I did Fast API and Angular. It is going to take a few minutes. So while this is running, I don't want to have a silence. You can ask me questions now, and I will just pull my focus back to the code when it finishes something. But it currently did steps, so I didn't even tell it to do steps or phases. It figured out on its own that it's the optimal thing. So it's doing scaffolding the application, creating some basic features, adding migrations, which means I need to have a database, and scaffolding Angular frontend to build. So it's going backend first. I see. Okay. I am open for questions, and I think we have 20 minutes left. So hopefully the app builds and I can at least run the frontend. And in the meantime, I'm going to drink some water. Okay, as I'm not getting any questions yet, I would like to talk about something that's not AI related, but it's more of a how you can deploy your application for free somewhere to test it. I know that a lot of you definitely have some private projects. Yes, I will pass the slides. I will send them to somebody and they can pass it to you, don't worry. All of you definitely have some projects but can't deploy them. You need two things. Of course, you need a database host and you need a website to host your application. So my recommendations for the database, use Neon. It is a PostgreSQL database, up to 0.5 GB storage for free. Trust me, for your applications, you're not going to hit that limit. I have an application with images and everything. I'm on like 300 megabytes. And render, you can have AI write a render file and you connect it to your GitHub and it just deploys the application. CI/CD fully implemented, free. The only downside is it has a cold start. After 30 minutes of not being used, the application will go down, and the moment you try to hit it again, after 5 seconds, it's back up. The paid version of $7 a month actually removes this, but for the free version, who cares? Just give them a link. They can wait 5 seconds. How do you automate CI/CD and auto-deploy? Honestly, I don't. I have DevOps that do that. I didn't ever have to automate CI/CDs or auto-deploys and stuff like that. I do the stuff manually, and if it is already predefined in the project, somebody from the DevOps side talked with somebody from a higher up senior side. They agreed on something, and I'm just using it. I never had to set it up automatically. I don't like it. I want to do these things manually. Vercel for free deployment, yes, I've used it as well. I don't know if it can be ran with just a single file. I'll show that after it bootstraps. It's almost done with the application. But for render, if you have this file called render.json or something in your folder of your application, it will just run it contains environment values contains build commands, run commands. It just does everything for you. So your only job is to go to render, press 2 buttons, and you're done. I wanted to show that, but I might even have time. We'll see. Hopefully I have time, but you can just go to render and I will show you how Claude generates the file anyways. Just press no here. How and when do you combine skills within the first prompt and the sequence of tuning the project? I'm not sure what do you mean by this question. Skills within the first prompt and the sequence of tuning the project. I'm not sure what you mean by combine skills with the first prompt. Skills are predefined to run when you need them. So you wouldn't really do them as the first prompt unless you have a skill that does something, like you have a custom init skill that introspects the whole application, writes a document and sends it to somebody. In that case, I guess you could do it, but otherwise I wouldn't combine skills with the first prompt. Any other questions from anyone? It doesn't have to be Claude related, it can be AI related as well. I'm open to answering any questions while Claude is finishing up. I have a JetBrains. Our company provided us JetBrains licenses. Yeah, licenses. So I'm just on IntelliJ for Java, PyCharm for Python. No specific reason. Just we have the license. I would like to use it. I use VS Code for Angular and React. At the end of the day, you can probably do it in a console now because Claude runs just a console. Is the Claude certification worth it? Studying for it and knowing if to answer those questions is worth it. Since our company has a partnership, I want to pass the certificate to show my support to the initiative. But for you as a student, if you have time, learn it. It will be useful. 100% you will learn something that you didn't know. Yeah, I mean, people use different IDEs. It's like, why do you have this color for the background? Why do you have like, why is this too short and stuff like that? But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I use this just for the license and that's it. Google AI Professional, are you asking about a certificate or could you give us a list of the best practices for building a graph knowledge as a, oh wow. Could you give us a glimpse of best practices for building a graph knowledge as a rug for agents? You just ask me a question that we could talk about for like half an hour probably without actually getting to a solution. Graph knowledge is a rug for agent. Can you message me on LinkedIn and we can like pick up this conversation there? I don't think that I should get started with this because I held 3 lectures of 2 hours each just talking about the rug. So there is stuff to talk about. Google AI Professional, any certificate, honestly. I like the Claude one because the documentation and the mock exam is free. So anyone can just spend 2 or 3 days studying it, trying to, I feel sad. So anyone can just learn it, practice it. You don't even have to go to the exam, but you can feel like you learned something new. The questions will change. If you open it in a month's time, you will find new questions and new answers. But it's free. If the Google AI Professional is also free, then sure, why not? If the documentation for studying is free, go ahead and learn it. Learning any one of these is good. They work a lot the same under the hood. So they are kind of, maybe it's just a different naming. Oh, wow, it finished. It's a different naming of some fields. For example, for Claude, it's tools any, but for other agents, it might be tools required to force it to use a tool and stuff like that. Do any of them. Of course, doing more of them is better or the best, but if you have time, just take one of them. Now, how do you feel when you reach token limits? I feel sad. I usually track my limits whenever I'm working. If I'm about to implement something big, I go to Claude usage and just double check where I'm at. If I'm at like 80%, I'll do it later. I will rather send an email, I will work on an estimation, read a document, and do something manually, and then come back to it so I don't get to a point where, okay, I have finally figured out what has to be done. Do it. You have reached your daily limit. So it's annoying, but I rarely ever reach it just because I offset my work by those 1 or 2 hours to do something else and then come back when it's reset. With agents writing code, how do you interview someone now? I ask them theoretical questions. I ask them examples. I ask them, what would you do in this situation? How would you handle this case? Can you explain this design pattern and give me an example where it's good and where it's bad? I don't like technical coding interviews because AI can write code for you now, so it doesn't really make sense. Just the technical one to get the feel that a person knows what authorization, authentication is, how databases work, at least a bit how they work, some standards for REST APIs, HTTP, HTTPS, and just the basic knowledge. I would ask them for some examples, and then if I see that they are really good at a specific, terminology, I would go a bit more into detail. How would you approach a problem to teach AI to rarely use to a rarely used coding language, or to force using a specific version? Make skills from reference docs. Force using a specific version. You can add this to your Claude MD and reference the documentation for that specific version. I worked on an application where you have to connect to a database. And it's really important that you know the version of the database, because in like 2 or 3 different versions, you can just have a command that existed before not exist anymore. So you can reference it there. Just give a short, like, force use this version. Here are the docs with the variables, and it will open that as it needs it to. It will not always check that file or that website unless it needs it. To a rarely used coding language, since AI is trained on examples, if you don't have examples, you can't really train it. If you have multiple projects in this rarely used coding language, you can have AI go through them to write itself a detailed list on what has to be done and how, if you are sure that these projects are correct, or if you have links to documentations, Stack Overflow, collect everything and then have it feed itself back and save its findings somewhere. Just have it write short keynotes on which methods are best used, how error handling should be done, things that you will run into often, and then hope it's fine. But since you don't have a lot of examples, you can't really say it's going to be fine. Do I think companies like Microsoft or Google using AI to write their code is a good thing? I see it as a big mistake by big tech because their code base could be less secure. Yes, but I read a blog that AI writes 60% of their code, and the other 40%, the security stuff, is written by people. So they still fix this by having people write the important stuff that must work, cannot have any issues, and then they review the AI code, have people double check and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, they finished something earlier, saved time. But again, your security concern is correct. I'm just hoping that they really are using humans to write those things, and not just going full AI and hoping it's fine. Yes, I mean, you can't put too much into technical interview for coding. Maybe a person doesn't know a lot of coding, but knows it in theory, and that person will learn how to code. While a person that knows how to program, but only knows the things that can program, they will not learn that fast. They are kind of limited. For example, a person that knows one language or a person that knows how to adapt to 5 different programming languages. That person might be really good at that one language, but you can't move them somewhere else. Okay, let me check what Claude cooked. How do I... It probably gave me these things in the... Oh, there we go. I'm just gonna run the front end because the backend probably requires me to connect to a database, so we can just see what it cooked. I can ask it like how to run the app. Yeah, well, the example isn't that good because I need the backend to run for this. Actually, I can at least open these things. So with just the minimal information that I gave it, I just want a CRM to some basic stuff, last name, first name, handle stuff. I got a pretty okay, I mean, you can see that the UI is AI written. It's like, it looks like just AI code. Go back. But I feel like for a starting point, I'm happy enough. It finished all of the features. I can't test them because I need to connect to a database. But it did a okay version 0.5. Now, what I would do here, I would of course test all of these and then try to figure out what I don't like. I don't like the UI being like this. I would like it a lot more to be a split sidebar with maybe options to jump to values and something like Jira, like have these things on the right side, have it be less like, I don't want this to be touchable. It should auto expand. So this is because I know how this works. I can tell the AI, make this specific text box not resizable, but auto expand. And just a random piece of knowledge I know from actually programming before, how to fix this being here. I mean, I can do, I can search, but there's nothing to search. Yeah, could not say the contact. It's fine. But just in like 10 minutes, I got a starting point for me to be able to test the application and just improve upon it. This is one feature. I would, of course, add at least 10 different CRM features, but do them one by one. So go back to Claude and tell Claude here, hey, I would like to add more features. Give me 5 ideas. You can even ask it. Oh, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can even ask it for ideas, and then you can use its ideas to come up with your own and figure out maybe its idea is bad, maybe it's good, maybe you invent something new, you never know. I think I have it on high effort, yeah. While it's doing this, I'm just going to talk about the models that I mentioned before. If you type in /model, you can choose your model. Haiku being the weakest, cheapest model. It's okay for maybe some ideas, but honestly, for coding, not that much. It's good for answering basic questions. Anything that requires it to check your code, it's not that good. Sonnet is the second step. It's more than good enough for coding. It's good for making plans as well. So talking to it to make a plan, and then Opus for implementing the plan. Because when you have a plan written, that's 50% of the work, and then switching to a higher usage model to make it better is a good idea. So write a plan. A plan is basically what we have in this README file, or what we had in that other one. Actually, I'll tell it to write a plan. There's also effort that I would just like to mention as well. It is the thinking time of the AI. Putting it to low makes the AI answer quickly, pull less references, use less tokens, but maybe it doesn't hit exactly what you need. Putting it on max uses a lot of tokens, makes it think for a long time, but will most certainly check everything it can. Default it to high, I keep it on high. Write a plan, and I think I misspelled absolutely everything, but doesn't matter. So just gave me like a couple of ideas. This here stopped because I pressed a cancel button, and so per contact follow-up cadence, it gave some ideas, and then I could tell it, oh, let's talk about idea number one. Ask me any questions in detail, and then we would talk for 5 minutes, and it can start actually implementing it. And that's just the basic flow. Don't do 20 features at once. If the features are connected, try to split them as much as possible to have smaller groups, and then go one by one. Always keep in mind that you might change something from before with a new feature. So this is why you want to group them. Maybe feature B adds a field to feature A, feature C adds a field to feature B, and it will always have to go back to double check. So just grouping them and doing them at once in smaller groups is good. Doing 20 features at once is going to kill your context. It's going to have way too much information. Which API are good for building AI agent? Gemini API or Anthropic API? When you say AI agent, what do you mean exactly? I worked with or Claude AI workflows, AI agent workflows. If you mean making an application that calls this, I work with Open Router and Open AI. I prefer Open Router because it has a lot of options. It often has free models. So if you want to test your application performance, you can drop down the model to a free model. If your app can run on a free model, it means that it is a really good application. You followed every single rule possible. Your context handling was really good. If it can do something a bit more complex on a free model. They sometimes give decent models as free as well, so you can like not waste money. I use OpenAI or OpenRouter. I have Anthropic as well, since I was doing some tutoring or something, so I just have like a couple of dollars left over. So up to you. I would recommend OpenRouter, but still up to you. There we go. And we have a plan MD now. And this is important because if I turn this off, so if I stop working and turn Claude back on, all of the information is in here. And it is a lot easier to read this than to read all of this, which is the reason why plans and scratch pads and document files and stuff like that exists. Do you believe the software job market is shrinking or will grow? I believe that it will grow because people will figure out that yet again startups should start existing. You can write a startup now in a month that took you a year before using Claude or using vibe coding or AI assistant coding. You can push the products faster, you can test the waters faster, and it is a lot cheaper to pay an AI tool for 1 month than to pay a developer for 1 year. And once people start figuring this out, they will just keep pushing out new applications, new ideas. People have a lot of ideas now, but just don't implement them anymore, you know. Yes, Neon for PSQL, it also now supports vectors if you want to do RAG chunking in it as well from February of this year. So if you, it's free as well, I'm pretty sure, up to like a certain degree, but I do prefer Neon. Again, no specific reason. It is the first one that I ran into that was actually free and takes you 3 button clicks to get a database. So you open it, you log in, you go new database, you give it a name, you press create, and you have a database up and running in 15 seconds. Other ones would ask me, which version do you want? Oh, what access do you want? What user? Just give me the database. So we have a good FYP that follows development of human memory model like reasoning as like an AGI. It's a start. I don't really know much. How do I start? What's your advice on this? It's a chatbot. Do you already have it, or are you thinking of creating it? Because you said that you have it but don't know how to start. I mean, start by telling, first of all, work on your idea. Start by telling AI to be brutally honest, interview anything that it doesn't think that you covered, and make a step-by-step plan for you to start implementing this. And then you can actually have AI do that step-by-step plan, or you can actually do it on your own. Hopefully that answers your question, because I didn't really fully understand the question. I don't really have any specific opinion on this, honestly. So I think our time has run out. So, yep, our time has run out. Thank you, everyone, for coming to my sessions. You can add me on LinkedIn, send me messages. I'm pretty responsive there. If I don't answer you, it's probably because I opened up your chat and then got called by somebody and just forgot. So if you want to ask some questions or anything, I am on LinkedIn. I will probably answer. Thank you very much, and I wish everyone a great rest of the day. Bye.